Hey, welcome back to PewTube. Kevin Inoue here of Fight Designer LLC and author of the Theatrical Firearms Handbook. So I had a rare opportunity to have an empty house today where I could make a little noise. So what I wanted to do was answer some questions about volume and blanks, as well as double dip a little bit. We talked about the 1911 in a past episode. Today I'm going to be demoing using Beretta 92s. Now this is the sidearm that replaced the 1911 A1 as our military sidearm of choice for decades, although it's just recently been replaced by a SIG. So, these are some of the most common blank gun versions out there. There's models made by Voltron, Kimar, Bruni, Rec, Umarex, I think did some, Pandora, I think did some, Rite did some, the Eccles, there's the Jackal Select Fire version. Who am I forgetting here? Anyway, Zeraki, of course, also did some. Pretty much anybody has done the Beretta 92s. Sometimes in several versions. There's like a compact version that Voltran did, some others. As well as in either 8mm or 9mm, and in top vent or in front vent. So today I'm going to be using some of these Beretta 92s to demonstrate some things about volume levels, as well as about venting. Now, in terms of volume levels, I'm going to be using a free app today that I got to test these. And this is, free download for anybody who has a smartphone, Decibel X. And this can be useful sometimes if you're working with your, for example, your sound designer or your stage manager. If there's questions about OSHA regulations or things like that, they want to know the decibel levels. So one of the things I like about this, not only does it give me sort of a constant readout, but it also shows the max. So if I want to, have some gunshots or something, I don't have to try and watch right when it hits. It'll peak and it'll tell me the max, and I can assume that that's the volume that it went up to. So for now, we're going to be starting with some of these Beretta 92s, and I'm going to start with a top vent Kimar. Now the top vents were almost all made in 8mm. This one is no exception. So we're going to be using some 8mm blanks now in this Kimar, and this one is starting to age. I should probably not send this one out on rentals at this point. You can see it's starting to lose a little bit of metal around the vent hole there. Mostly just the chrome finish, but the hole itself is getting a little bigger, which means two things. One, it means it's starting to shoot little bits of metal out the top there, which is not the safest thing you want. It also means that the pressure is going to be reduced because there's a larger vent hole. So this may well not cycle properly, but for purposes of testing volume, should work just fine. Just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and put on eyes and ears, as you should anytime you're testing a new blank gun, or working with power tools, as I discovered the other night when I got an aluminum sliver in my eye, which took me a couple days to find and pull out. So don't do that. Eye protection's a good thing. Alright, got my eyes, got my ears. I'm going to go ahead and load this up. Chamber around. Now these do have a at least somewhat functional safety. I suppose, this might not be a bad time to test it, just out of curiosity. So I put the safety on. Does not fire. What do you know? Now, as a generalization, red dot means it can fire. Safety is now off. It is cocked. There is one in the chamber. Let's see what happens. Let me get my decimal thing ready. Alright, it is on the floor, so it's just a few feet away from this. Closer than any audience member is likely to be, but not quite as close as my own head as an actor when I'm firing this. Hey, it actually cycled. What do you know? Cool. Alright, and it looks like that peaked at 107.4 decibels. Now, obviously that's going to be a little loud for prolonged exposure. OSHA would be a little unhappy with that. So if you're in a situation like I am right now, where you've got low ceiling, cement, metal, a lot of things to ricochet the sound back, you're going to want to be careful, because that can really damage your ears. If you're shooting inside a rental car or something like that as a part of your movie, anything that makes the sound bounce back at you and doesn't absorb the sound the way that fabric or audience members might is going to make it worse. So this is kind of a worst case scenario right now, but that's really what we ought to prepare for. Okay, next up now I've got a Eccles Jackal Dual. Now this is one of these Select Fire variants, and it's a little confusing because the safety isn't really the safety, and what should be the takedown lever is actually the selector switch, where it goes between, or next to the takedown lever, where it goes between single, safe, or fully automatic. Now these letters, these are made I think in Turkey, so it's not based on English designation. Looks like the safety actually doesn't work on this, because that should be safe right there. and it's not. So I would not trust the safety on these. Good to know. Now this is the top vent version. You can get these in either top or front vent. So this particular version actually has 2 little vents out the side of the top here, but it's closest I can find in terms of equivalency to that 8mm, because things like the barrel length, the vent hole, all that will affect the volume as well. So in this case, I'm trying to find as close and equivalent as I can to what we had with the 8mm. So let's see how loud this gets. 108.1. So not a lot louder, but it is a little louder. Those of you who are hoping that 8mm would be sufficiently smaller to use in a small black box theater, the answer is no. But it is, I guess, a little better than the 9mm. Now, just out of curiosity, let's see if it's any different when we switch to a front vent. So now what we have here is the same general model, the Echo-Jackal Dual. It's in a different finish. But otherwise basically the same. They changed the grips around sometime depending on what year they came out and stuff like that. So this little distinctive kind of S-swoop shape shows the later Eccles models, not just the Jackal. But again, this is a front vent 9mm. Now I haven't really cleared out the front of this one, but you can see they come with this little extension that is in that blaze orange that marks them legally as being not firearms. Some models you can take these off, some you can't without messing up because you eliminate the restrictor. Usually what I end up doing is just scraping off the orange paint and painting them black when it's purely for theatrical and films use, and get that Department of Commerce waiver and whatnot. So let's see. This is the same brand of blank and everything else. Set. And here we go. 108.4. I don't know if that's any significant difference. That may have just been the randomness of, the way the direction of the microphone just happened to be pointed. But yeah, so between 108 and 109 decibels, that can cause hearing damage. So this is why, especially in an enclosed space, you got to be able to provide foamies for your actors. What I like to do, if I can, is find clear ones and cut them down so they don't stick out, because your normal disposable foam earplugs will stick out and be pretty obvious. But at least on the non-camera side ear or the upstage ear, if you can, and if you can't, there's ways where you can even just, as you raise it up, try to cover an ear, things like that can help a little bit, I suppose. Having your actor make a sound. For some reason, if you're doing something like that while you are firing, your ears actually will cut out some of the noise. They get used to that, as opposed to if it's totally quiet and then there's a really loud noise. That, for some reason, makes it worse. Having your mouth open, I think, helps equalize the pressure a little bit as well. But we are talking about, with semi-automatics, it's a full charge. It's got to be in order to cycle the action. So you can't put a half load in these and have them function. So nobody makes half loads for them. So this is why semi-automatics can be potentially problematic with live theaters, because we're talking about some pretty loud noise. All right, so I hope that's cleared up some questions for you. Both about the Beretta 92 style blank firing firearms and also about volume of blanks that we use in either 8mm or 9mm. As always, feel free to subscribe down below. Shoot me any questions, requests. We have had a request for information on the M16. I'll be getting to that sometime in the next week or two. But I suspect that's going to take a number of different sessions because there's a lot to unpack there when we're talking about the M16, AR-15, M4 platform. Hugely diverse, hugely successful platform, which of course means a lot of different prop options as well. All right, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.